3 spine-chilling true roommate tales exposing sinister secrets and unexplained horrors. Jessica, Leah, and Megan were thrilled when they got the keys to their new Victorian house, nestled in a seemingly calm suburb of Ohio. But this wasn't just any house, it was a relic of the past, and the moment they stepped inside, the air turned heavy. Old floorboards creaked like they were groaning under the weight of secrets. Shadows curled ominously in the corners. As they unpacked their lives, the house whispered promises of adventure. Little did they know, something darker was stirring in those dusty halls. Leah tried to study, but a voice calling her name echoed through the empty rooms. Leah. It was clear as day, yet she found herself utterly alone. Panic clawed at her throat, but when she rushed to tell Jessica and Megan, they just giggled, saying she'd been working too hard. Jessica, more grounded, analyzed it as exhaustion. You're just stressed, Leah. This place is fine. But was it? As days turned into nights, Megan couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Her belongings moved without her touching them. The next morning she found her favorite sweater strewn across the living room. She laughed it off, maybe it's haunted. However, the laughter died quickly when Leah said, "We should check the basement." Trembling with anticipation, they found a hidden compartment filled with faded photographs, the faces smiling eerily juxtaposed with the chilling caption, "Missing." Jessica's heart raced. What if something happened to them? She felt sick, but Leah and Megan shrugged it off, attributing it to urban legends. Maybe they were just tired. Yet strange exchanges with their neighbors unfolded. An elderly couple waved one day, their smiles sickly sweet. The next week their smiles didn't quite reach their eyes, and ominously, their gazes lingered. The vibe changed, every kind gesture masked a weird tension that left the girls on edge. Weeks flew by, and the whispers intensified. The house felt alive, almost breathing. Jessica had started dreaming nightmares of trapped souls and longings for freedom. She tried to shake it off during the day, but the chill was ever present, tightening her stomach into knots. One night, they called the local authorities when the whispers escalated to discernible words, but the officers smirked, dismissing them. "You girls just need to relax," they said, laughter laced in their tone. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then came the fateful night. The power flickered and the lights went out, swallowing them in an abyss of terror. Heartbeats echoed in the silence as Jessica gasped, "Something is wrong. I can feel it in my bones. These voices, they're more than just echoes. They feed off us." They huddled together, shivering against the encroaching gloom. Suddenly, an inhuman growl resonated from the basement, causing their hearts to stop. What would they discover if they dared to confront the truth lurking within those walls? With panic creeping in, each girl turned to the other, questioning their bonds, realizing that trust was the only thing keeping them safe from whatever haunted the darkness. Would they make it through the night, or would something unspeakable claim them, like those who came before? The growl echoed again, a deep, rumbling sound that seeped into their bones. Jessica's grip tightened around Leah's arm, her nails digging into the flesh. Megan's voice trembled, barely a whisper. "We have to go down there. We need to know." "Are you crazy?" Jessica shot back, disbelief flickering in her eyes. But Leah nodded, her expression resolute. "We can't wait. Whatever is happening, we brought it here. We need to confront it." Their hearts raced as they approached the basement door, the wooden frame seeming to loom larger in the darkness. Every step felt like walking through thick fog, the air heavy with dread. The growl had faded, but an unsettling silence enveloped them, pressing in like a vice. "Here we go," Leah breathed, forcing her shaking hand onto the doorknob. It turned with a low creak, the sound jarring in the silence. As the door swung open, darkness poured out, a palpable entity wrapping itself around them. Jessica hesitated, dread pricking at her skin, but Leah stepped into the abyss. Megan followed, and Jessica had no choice but to push herself forward. The stairs groaned under their weight, a painful symphony that drowned out the deafening silence. A flicker from Megan's phone illuminated their surroundings, revealing damp walls lined with peeling wallpaper, and just beyond, shelves filled with dust-covered objects. "What the hell is all this?" Megan muttered, scanning the room, her breath quickening. "Look!" Leah pointed, her voice barely above a whisper. In the corner, a small pile of items lay, clothes, a diary, and more photographs, each one labeled with different names. A low chill snaked through the room, and Jessica felt the weight of unseen eyes. "What if we're not alone?" Jessica blurted out, her voice echoing in the cramped space. They shuffled closer, their curiosity battling with an instinctual urge to flee. Leah picked up the diary, its pages yellowed and fragile. She gasped as she read the first line. "Help me." Suddenly, the air thickened and a cold breeze swept past them, making them shiver. It carried a whisper, clear and haunting. "Leave." Jessica's heart raced, icy fingers gripping her throat. "We need to go. Now." She pulled at Leah's arm. "Put that down." But Leah clutched the diary tightly, her eyes glazed with something beyond terror. "No, wait. We need to find out what happened here." Outside, the wind howled, rattling the old windows as if the house itself were trying to warn them. The growl returned, louder this time, mixed with a cacophony of voices. "Leave. You shouldn't be here." Panic surged through Jessica, hot and electric. "What if we can't leave?" She was almost pleading now. They needed to get out together, but Leah seemed lost in the diary, oblivious to the mounting terror. "Megan, help me," Jessica hissed, pulling Megan's attention from the witness of their fate. "We can't stay here." But before they could act, the growl morphed into a shriek, piercing and primal. The ground beneath them trembled violently, sending Megan stumbling, her phone slipping from her fingers. The light flickered, shadows warping and twisting into horrific shapes. "Leah, we have to go," Megan shouted, desperation clawing at her voice. But before anyone could make a move, the shelves rattled, and the air grew even heavier. It was as if something from the past was demanding their presence. Jessica's breath hitched as she watched a shadow take form at the foot of the stairs, solidifying into a figure cloaked in darkness. The name Leah had read flickered to life in her mind, one of the faces from the photographs, but what had happened to them? "No!" Leah screamed, dropping the diary. The cover slapped against the damp ground, the sounds reverberating in the charged atmosphere. A chill swept through the room, mingling with their rising dread. As the figure advanced, panic surged like wildfire. The three girls turned to flee, their hope fading as the shadows reached out, cold fingers grasping at their ankles, pulling them back toward the darkness. Would they escape the grip of the house, or would they become just another chapter in its unending horror? And then, through the claustrophobic darkness, a cacophony of whispers erupted, converging into a single chilling promise: "You're one of us now." Leah's scream pierced through the chaos, but it was swallowed by the darkness. Jessica yanked at her arm, adrenaline flooding her veins as panic turned her thoughts into a jumbled mess. They had to get out. They had to escape the spiraling shadows. "Run!" Jessica shouted, her voice raw and urgent. They dashed through the basement, their footsteps echoing against the damp walls, chasing the last remnants of light from Megan's fallen phone. The air grew heavier, thrumming with unseen malice as they sped toward the stairs. The growl returned, this time a savage roar that shook the very foundation beneath them. Jessica felt it vibrate in her chest, a primal fear that clawed at her instincts. She stumbled, the energy of the house pressing against her like a weight she couldn't shake off. Megan was still behind her, scrambling to find her phone in the thick shadows. "I can't," she gasped, her voice laced with terror. Jessica turned back, her feet frozen for a heartbeat as she saw the silvery glimmer of the screen cast eerie light around them. "No! Megan, leave it!" Leah shouted, moments before a shadow lunged from the corner. Jessica barely caught a glimpse of a gnarled face with hollow eyes and a mouth twisted in a grin. It reached out, fingers like bone stretched toward Megan. "Help!" Megan screamed, and Jessica's heart shattered at the sound. Instinct kicked in, and she rushed back, grabbing Megan's wrist and yanking her along despite the cold panic that froze her limbs. The growl morphed again, a high-pitched wail that echoed through the basement, clawing at their sanity. "You can't leave it," rasped, a voice thick with malice. They sprinted up the steps, the weight of the house pushing down like a lead blanket. Each step felt like a struggle against the forces dragging them back. As they burst through the door into the narrow hallway, the shadows writhed at the edges of their vision, whispering familiar names from the photographs. "Which way?" Jessica shouted, panic rising in her throat. Her breath caught as the figure they had seen before flared into view at the end of the hall. It was closer now, so much closer. A whisper slid through the air, "You're one of us." "No." Leah shouted, shaking her head, but the air seemed to bind them with fear. They needed to move, to decide, or they'd succumb to whatever dark fate awaited them in this cursed house. "Downstairs. We go back down," Megan cried, desperation coloring her voice. Leah and Jessica exchanged horrified glances. But the truth was clear, they had to confront whatever this was, or live forever knowing they had run. With a shared breath, they darted toward the basement door again, skidding to a halt as the figure approached, the shadows shifting around it. Every inch of their skin crawled with the understanding that whatever they faced down there, it was waiting for them, knowing their fears. "Stop!" A voice shrieked, this time outside the realm of whispers. It rose like a tide, powerful and filled with sorrow. "You can't take them." The ground shook beneath them, as if the house itself wanted to resist. They hesitated, caught between the pull of darkness and the shimmering thread of hope woven through that anguished voice. Would that voice guide them to freedom, or would it lead them deeper into madness? The walls vibrated again, a bone-chilling growl reverberating through the air, sending shards of ice down their spines. Behind them, the shadows pulsed, hungry and eager. Outside, a new voice broke through, calling their names, each syllable echoing in the oppressive silence. Were they truly trapped, or could salvation be mere breaths away? The girls stood at the threshold, torn between two worlds. Which path would they choose? The darkness pulsated, waiting with an insidious patience, its whispers growing louder. Time was slipping away. The darkness shivered around them, a living thing that fed on their fear. Jessica's heart raced as she turned, breathless. The figure loomed closer, draped in shadow like a cloak, its face flickering between the shapes of anger and sorrow. "No, no," Leah whispered, her voice barely breaking through the tension. It didn't seem like a monster at all. More like something lost. "Run. We don't have time." Megan shouted, panic weaving through her words as she pushed against Jessica's shoulder. The other girls stood paralyzed, guilt twisting in their guts. Turn back to the basement, or confront that wretched face. "Maybe we can help it," Leah argued, taking a hesitant step forward. The entity paused as if considering her words. "It's not like it's going to guide us to safety. It's feeding off our fear. Move." Jessica's voice cut through the fog of uncertainty. With a surge of adrenaline, they pushed past Leah, darting toward the stairwell. As they descended, the growls grew louder, reverberating through the air like a symphony of despair. The shadows coiled around them, tongues of darkness reaching out, tasting their resolve. When they hit the basement floor, Jessica spun around, pulling the others close. "What now?" The basement felt different, a heavy, stale air thickening with dread. The flickering lights seemed to weave a tapestry of horror on the walls, shadows dancing wildly. We need something, anything. Leah's eyes darted, searching the gloom for a weapon, a sign, a way out. Megan's fingers brushed against something cold and metallic. What about this? She yelled, brandishing an old wrench she had unearthed from the debris. It glinted faintly even in the darkness, but fear flickered behind her eyes. Are we really going to fight it? It's that or wait to become its next meal, Jessica replied, trying to mask her own trepidation. Who would have thought a night of fun would turn into a nightmare? They huddled closely, a fragile fortress against the weight of what they faced. Each girl attempted to reassure the others, their hearts beating as one, echoing a desperate rhythm. Then, with a collective breath, they turned back toward the stairway and the shadowed path that led above. A whisper drifted from the corner, chilling Jessica to her core. Why do you resist? It crooned, drawing closer, curdling the air around them. With a surge of rage, Megan swung the wrench through the darkness. It struck something solid, and the figure screeched, the shrill sound causing the very walls to quiver. We've got to keep moving. Jessica screamed, panic-stricken but fueled by defiance. They fled down the corridor, shadows darting at their heels, hungry for the warmth of their life force. If they paused, if they hesitated even for a moment, their terror would be fulfilled. The air thickened, pressing down, warping reality. Abruptly, the basement door slammed shut behind them, a thunderous roar that rattled the entire house. They skidded to a stop, breathless, staring back. Go! Leah shouted, pushing them forward again. Through the chaos, the voice returned, now angry, hurt, you will not escape. Megan stumbled, almost falling to her knees. What does it want? I don't know. Jessica's voice rang out, filled with desperation. What did it mean? What chained them to this haunting place? Suddenly, a glimmer caught Jessica's eye from the far corner of the basement where the darkness seemed to writhe in anticipation, something shiny, something almost alive. Over there. She gasped, pointing as hope ignited. But the moment her words left her mouth, the shadows around them twisted violently, preventing any chance for escape. Would that glimmer be their salvation or another delusion? As they hesitated, the shadow stalking them continued to close in, its twisted grin illuminated by the flickering light, an invitation to plunge deeper into the haunted heart of the house. And the question pulsed in the air, were they brave enough to accept that invitation? The glimmer pulsed in the darkness, a beacon of light taunting their fear. Jessica's heart raced as the shadow shifted closer, its cold breath wrapping around them like a vice. She hesitated, torn between survival and curiosity. Megan, what are you waiting for? Jessica hissed, her eyes wide as the glimmer flickered again. It was a small mirror, cracked and dusty, half buried in the debris. We need to use it. Use it for what? Megan shouted, casting frantic glances back at the advancing darkness. The thing's coming for us. We can't stay here. I don't know. Jessica stammered, fear choking her voice. The whispers grew louder, swarming like angry wasps. Maybe it can show us something. Something we missed. Or it could be the end of us. Leah cried, shivering as the figure drew nearer. Shadows dripped from its form, coiling into the ground like snakes waiting to strike. With a surge of desperation, Jessica lunged toward the mirror, clutching it in her hands. Its surface rippled like water, reflecting not only her terrified face but something deeper, images flickering through the glass like a broken film reel. She held it closer, eyes glued to the visions beyond. She saw a room, eerily familiar, nothing but a faint outline of their own living room back home. But there were shadows darting through it, figures with indistinct faces and hollow eyes, echoing their fears, a sad parade of regret. Megan, look! Jessica gasped, her breath hitching. Do you see that? Megan leaned in, but as she did, the mirror rippled violently, distorting their reflection. It's just memories. We can't get caught up in this. It'll trap us. No, wait. Leah shouted, her eyes widening. What if it's showing us how we got here? Maybe it's a way out. The darkness shrieked, a guttural sound that echoed through the basement like a death rattle. It pressed closer, hungry and desperate to feed on their dread. Enough! Megan screamed, brandishing the wrench again. She swung it toward the shadow. Get back! The impact forced the figure back momentarily, but its anger surged like a blinding tide. Jessica's heart thundered in her chest. They were running out of time. Help me! Jessica yelled. She and Leah moved closer to the mirror, blood pounding in their ears. If we focus on it together, maybe it'll reveal what we need. They joined hands, their fingers trembling as they steadied themselves, their breaths coming in shallow gasps. Images flashed, laughter, secrets shared, whispers beneath their breath, and lies they'd tucked away. Why did we come here? Leah asked, confusion and sorrow twisting her features. Why did we allow this place to trap us? The shadow loomed larger, its form darkening the already dim basement. You cannot escape, it snarled, words slithering through the air. The scent of decay wafted closer, curling around them. Jessica squeezed her eyes shut, willing for the mirror to reveal the truth. Show us. What do we need to do? A soft glow emanated from the mirror, illuminating their frightened faces for a fleeting moment. Images crystallized into clarity: a door, a key, the nagging memory of a new roommate they rarely spoke about but whose presence haunted their lives. Then came a flash of horror, the glimmering shards of shattered glass fell from their grip, clinking ominously on the floor. The reflection twisted violently, plunging them into darkness as the entity shrieked, a chorus of sorrow and fury. What did we do? Megan shouted, panic writ large on her face. They're coming! Leah cried, half-turned to face the encroaching shadow, fingers trembling, mouth dry and aching. With renewed determination, Jessica shouted, we find that key. There has to be something we can use. But as they dashed deeper into the fringes of the basement, fear gnawed at their insides. The heavy presence of dread lurked behind them, the voice rumbling within their minds. You cannot escape. Footsteps echoed behind them, heavy and relentless. Was it the voice of the shadow? Or was it their own past haunting them, dragging them toward the truth? As they raced for the unknown, a chill pricked at the nape of Jessica's neck. What awaited them beyond the door? Would it be salvation, or was something darker waiting to consume them all? The last flicker of hope dimmed. There was no turning back. Their choice loomed large before them: would they confront the truth, or allow the darkness to engulf them completely? The basement air grew thick, pressing against their skin as they stumbled deeper into the shadows. A sense of foreboding wrapped itself around them, whispering, clawing at their sanity. Jessica could feel the cold sweat trickle down her spine, each drop a reminder of the darkness breathing down their necks. The mirage of escape flickered in the back of her mind, like a fading light in a storm. Megan, look for that key! Jessica shouted, her voice barely piercing through the encroaching silence. It has to be around here somewhere. What if it's just an illusion? Megan panted, the glint of fear in her eyes. What if we're meant to get lost in this nightmare? Shut up and help me look. Leah snapped, scanning the cluttered room, filled with forgotten relics of another time: dusty books, broken furniture, and cobwebs that seemed alive. Every creak and moan of the foundation echoed their uncertainty. Suddenly, a shudder ran through the air, a low hum that vibrated their very bones. Jessica turned sharply, her heart racing. Shadows twisted against the wall, morphing into grotesque shapes that leered at them, their whispers building into a cacophony of despair. We need to go back. Megan hissed, her face pale as she pointed toward the staircase from which they'd come. But the shadows danced like fireflies, dangerously beautiful yet treacherous. No. Leah screamed, her voice breaking. We can't. We'll be trapped. She dashed forward, her fingers brushing across the debris in frantic search for the key. But with every step, darkness seeped in, wrapping around her ankles like chains. Jessica felt the urge to retreat, the instinct to flee resonating deep within her. But guilt held her steady. Every terrible memory flashed in her mind, the laughter they shared, the secrets they buried under the weight of pretense. Megan, Leah. Remember the messages we ignored? The signs we brushed aside? Jessica's voice trembled. This is our fault. Another pulse of darkness surged toward them, a booming echo of anguish and rage. It loomed closer, an amorphous mass that shimmered under the dim light like oil on water, thrumming in time with their racing hearts. Focus on the mirror. Jessica shouted, hoping to pull them back from the brink of despair. It showed us something. There's a way out. No. Leah cried, her voice piercing the air. Only pain and regret. We can't face it again. We don't have a choice. Jessica yelled, desperation creeping in. The shadows began to morph into sharp, biting forms, piercing through the air with jagged movements, hungry for fear, desperate to consume. Suddenly, a glint caught her eye. She dove toward a pile of rubble, her heart pounding as she unearthed a glimmering object, a key, pulsating with unnatural energy. A sense of relief washed over her, but it quickly morphed into dread as shadows swarmed closer, their whispers now a discordant chorus of rage and mockery. What are you waiting for? Leah shouted. Use it. Jessica scrambled to her feet, the key trembling in her hand. The air crackled around them with unseen energy. The basement felt alive, the shadows leering, urging her to act, to step forward and unlock whatever lay beyond. With trembling fingers, she steadied herself, approaching an ancient, rusted latch set deep into the wall, hidden beneath layers of dust and despair. Is it the way out? Megan asked, her voice barely above a whisper. No. It's what we've been avoiding, Jessica replied, trembling with an unexpected chill. It might reveal everything. As she thrust the key into the latch, it clicked loudly, echoing through the suffocating dark. The shadows recoiled, and with a wrenching groan, the latch swung open, revealing a stark, blinding light that poured into the basement, illuminating horrors that lay in wait. Jessica, don't. Megan screamed, but it was too late. They stepped into the light together, but it wasn't salvation that awaited them. Instead, a new reality unfolded, twisting around them like smoke, morphing their surroundings into something utterly unfathomable, a place where their darkest fears were alive. And as the darkness shrieked in opposition, the doorway slammed shut behind them, sealing off all hope. What awaited them in this grotesque new world? Would they be swallowed by the darkness they thought they had escaped, or would they finally confront the truth and unearth the sinister secrets buried long ago? The light swallowed them, engulfing their senses. A sharp, searing brightness replaced the oppressive darkness, but Jessica felt no comfort. Instead, the light twisted, wrapping around them like a serpent, revealing a twisted world that shivered and churned. Megan gasped. What is this place? Her voice trembled, barely holding on to sanity. They stood in a hall that stretched infinitely, lined with doors, wooden, rusty, cracked, each one breathing with a life of its own. The air tasted metallic, thick with dread. The shadows from the basement lingered at the edges, whispering secrets they didn't want to hear. Leah gripped Jessica's arm, her nails digging in painfully. We need to find a way out. We can't stay here. But the deeper they looked, the more unsettling their surroundings became. The doors whispered. Each one illuminated their failures, their regrets, a cacophony of haunting memories and unfinished thoughts spilling from the keyholes. Stop! Jessica shouted, her voice bursting with desperation. Don't listen to them. But a door to their left creaked open, drawn by an unseen force. An icy wind whipped through, swirling against their faces. The ghostly echoes pulled at Jessica's mind, taunting. She could almost make out words. Why did you come back? You deserve this. Megan took a step back, her heart racing. We can't let it play tricks on us, she said, though her eyes darted nervously from door to door. We have to keep moving. They turned, heading toward the end of the hall where the light seemed to dim. Each door they passed unleashed a shiver down their spines. Glimpses of grotesque figures danced behind cracked windows, shadows lurking, waiting to ensnare them. What if this is the end? Leah whispered, her breath shaky. What if there's no way back? Stop. Jessica snapped, knowing fear was an enemy they couldn't afford. We must find a door that feels right. Her heart hammered as she looked back at the doors lined up against the walls. They felt alive, vibrating with pain and laughter. It was a twisted game, and they were the players. A door at the end, slightly ajar, exuded a strange warmth. The light beyond it flickered, casting a golden glow on the cold stone floor. Over there, Jessica pointed, steeling herself against the dread curling in her gut. As they approached, the whispers grew louder, a sympathetic murmur, almost seductive. Come closer, it's safer here. What if it lies? Leah stammered, fear tightening her throat. It's our only chance, Jessica urged, fear battling hope. With a forceful breath, she pushed the door fully open and stepped inside. A warmth enveloped her, almost welcoming. The room appeared ordinary, at first. A cozy living area with plush couches, bookshelves lining the walls filled with comforting tales. But something felt wrong. The smiling faces in the photos hanging on the walls looked familiar, yet twisted in ways that made Jessica's stomach churn. Then she turned to see them, reflections of herself and her friends. They grinned back at her, mirroring every emotion and fear that had plagued them. You're just fragments, they sneered. This is your forever. A shrieking filled the air, drowning out their thoughts, pulling them into a panic. The door slammed shut behind them, sealing their fates. The shadows moved hungrily, growing restless, thrumming with anticipation. Now what? Megan shouted, her voice breaking, grasping for control. In that moment, Jessica realized the truth: they weren't alone. Something hunted them. The shadows, the reflected laughter, every hint of despair they had ever felt began to take form, pushing her deeper into a spiraling horror. Just then, the floor beneath them trembled, cracking open. Chilled air pressed against their ankles, inviting, yet deadly. Dark shapes writhed, hissing promises of power and escape. What have we unleashed? Leah gasped, fear coating her voice. Jessica didn't have an answer. But as the floor beckoned, they had little choice. Stay and face their worst fears, or plunge into an abyss that promised the unknown. Someone has to make the choice. Jessica whispered, their gazes meeting, hearts racing. They stood at the edge, where all choices began and ended. What would they decide to do? Would they embrace the horror within or flee into the darkness and deeper despair that awaited them? Jessica's gaze darted toward the abyss yawning beneath them. The dark shapes twisted and turned, beckoning with clawed fingers, whispering viciously in voices that echoed their own fears. It'll be easy, you know you want this, they hissed, promising deliverance from the pain of memory. No! Jessica shouted, shaking her head furiously. She could not allow the shadows to drag them deeper. We can't let them win. Leah's tremors intensified. What if this is our only way out? Her eyes were wide, glistening with unshed tears. What if we're just prolonging the inevitable? Megan stepped closer, concern etched on her face. There's no going back. We need to choose now, Jess. Every heartbeat resonated in Jessica's ears, echoing like a death knell. The cracked floor continued to quake, revealing jagged edges beckoning them further into the darkness. A chilling uncertainty gnawed at her resolve. We can't give in, she managed to whisper, fighting the pull of dread coursing through her. As if sensing their hesitation, the room convulsed. The walls pulsed like a living organism, contracting and expanding with sinister glee. The cacophony of laughter and screams swelled, drowning out their thoughts as the door behind them warped, distorting the exit into a mere mirage, fading before their eyes. "Choose," came a guttural voice from the shadows, commanding and visceral. Its intensity sparked a surge of terror that lashed against Jessica's chest. "Your fears or the unknown both promise pain. Which will it be?" The dark figures danced closer, their faces morphing into grotesque caricatures. They grinned wider, displaying rows of jagged teeth that glistened with malice. Each step closer sent icy fingers down Jessica's spine, urging her to take that perilous leap into the unseen. "What do we do?" Leah whimpered, her voice barely audible over the clamor. "Stay strong," Jessica cried, trying to rally her friends. "This can't be the end. We have powers they don't want us to use. If we stick together, no." Megan's voice broke, a sense of dread consuming her. "We need to decide now." Suddenly, the floor cracked open wider, jagged edges resembling miniature cliffs, ready to plunge them into the abyss. A tendril of darkness reached up, coiling around Jessica's ankle, icy and horrible. It whispered secrets she had tried to bury. "Join us or die here." Fear clawed at her throat. "No!" she shrieked, pulling away from its hold, her heart racing with primal terror. "We have to fight." Megan and Leah's eyes widened, reflecting their own battles against the consuming chaos. They exchanged a glance filled with desperation, unified yet terrified. Jessica gasped as she felt an odd warmth beginning to form in her chest. "We can do this. We can conquer them together." The shadows froze, their seductive whispers faltering for just a second. With a surge of collective determination, they each took a step back, unwilling to surrender. "No more," Jessica bellowed, her voice piercing through the laughter. It was their combined fear, but now wielded as a weapon. The shadows howled as if wounded, recoiling from the intensity of their bravery. Yet it was now or never. A flicker of hope ignited within Jessica, but just as swiftly, the floor heaved violently, sending them tumbling. As the world turned upside down, darkness swallowed them, a swirl of emotions, fear, and fleeting memories. They landed on something soft yet suffocating, a mass that groaned beneath them. "Where are we?" Megan panted, scanning their surroundings. "I don't know," Jessica replied, her heart pounding loudly. Shadows flickered in her peripheral vision, moving closer. "But we can't be done yet. We can't give in." The entity rose from the darkness, a figure draped in shadows. Eyes glowed with malevolence, offering a slow, twisted smile. "Welcome, I've been waiting for you." Panic surged anew, but Jessica stood firm. "No matter what, we won't be trapped again." The figure stepped forward, voice silky and sinister. "Ah, but you already are." What choice would they make now? Would they confront their worst fears or turn and embrace the darkness that hinted at unfathomable truths? The air thickened, tightening around Jessica's throat like a noose. The figure, shrouded in shadows, exuded an unnatural chill that sent tremors racing through her limbs. Lights flickered erratically, dimmer, then brighter, like a heartbeat struggling against the darkness. "Let us go," Jessica whispered, urgency clawing at her voice, but a heavy weight pinned her feet to the ground. Leah and Megan stood frozen, eyes wide, reflecting the fear mirrored in her own. The figure tilted its head, shadowed face writhing like something alive. "You can't leave, not yet." Its voice slithered through the room, wrapping around them as though it were the darkness itself come to life. "Your past hasn't finished telling its story. Wouldn't you like to know how it ends?" "What are you talking about?" Leah's voice trembled. The entity laughed, a sound like bones scraping against stone. "Oh, those memories you buried deep. They're here now, ready to play." With a wave of its hand, a fog curled around them, thickening into shapes and snippets of laughter, shrieks from the past clawing their way back to life. "No!" Jessica shouted, shaking her head furiously, but the echoes grew louder. Images flashed before her, a broken friendship, betrayal, a face she thought she'd forgotten. Each scream magnified her despair, pinching at long-buried wounds. Megan recoiled, clutching her head. "Make it stop!" she cried, but the shadows danced around them, relentless in their torment, forcing them to relive those dark moments. "Accept it or suffer the consequences," the figure taunted, its smile widening, revealing teeth like splintered glass. Suddenly, Jessica felt the warmth in her chest flicker again, sparks of defiance flaring against the tide of despair. "Don't you dare!" she yelled, her voice rising above the chaos. And just like that, the shadows recoiled, retreating back into the corners of the room, hissing. The ground underfoot trembled violently, the walls pulsing with fury at her rejection. She could feel Megan and Leah's presence, luminescent even against the black. Together, they were brighter than the shadows. "Stand with me!" Jessica shouted, conviction driving her. "We can't let them take us. We have to fight." At her call, they locked eyes, determination melding into something powerful. The shadows hesitated, a ripple of uncertainty coursing through them. "What if we can handle it?" Leah murmured, her voice tinged with uncertainty and bravery. "We can handle anything together," Jessica replied, feeling strength surge within her. "Even the darkness." The figure's growl echoed, sending guttural vibrations through the air. "You think you can resist? Then let the horrors unfold." A vision burst forth from the fog, a sight that seemed too vividly familiar. Images of their past friendships intertwined with darkness, betrayal woven into every laugh. But Jessica steered her focus away, her heart beating ferociously. "Those are our fears, not our truths." A blinding light surged from them, pushing back against the shadows, burning them like flames licking at ice. The dark entity writhed in pain, shrouded in shadow and contradiction, caught in their newfound resolve. And now it hissed, steps faltering. "You're more trapped than ever." The ground beneath them swirled again, creating a spinning vortex. "Hold on!" Jessica cried, but the pull began to worm into her psyche, whispering secrets of doubt and resignation. "This isn't real. Fight it." The effect intensified, dragging her down as the laughter rose to a deafening crescendo, drowning out rational thoughts. What awaited them at the bottom of this abyss? Would it finally break them or give them strength? "Jessica!" Leah's scream pulled her back. "No matter where we end up, we stick together." But as the shadowy depths closed in, threatening to consume them, an unanticipated warmth enveloped Jessica again like a protective cloak, and with it, a singular thought crystallized: we must find the light. The entity screamed sharp and fragmented as they were ensnared in the void while the darkness clawed at their minds. Bound by their past but propelled by hope, would they break free or be lost forever in the depths? The answer lingered just out of reach, and the shadows clawed at the edges of their consciousness, promising a fate worse than death. What awaited them in the pitch-black silence? A soft voice echoed from the darkness: "You think you can break free? Turn around." Light poured into the darkness, illuminating a truth the girls had been too afraid to face. Jessica blinked, her heart racing. The room twisted around them, morphing into scenes of their past as if reality itself was stripping away their layers of denial. Leah and Megan stood at her side, their eyes glinting with terror and fierce determination. "Turn around," the voice echoed again, winding through the air like a serpent. "Who is that?" Leah whispered, her voice quaking with uncertainty. "It doesn't matter," Jessica retorted, shaking her head. "We need to stay together. We have each other. We're stronger together." With a deep breath, Jessica took a step forward, her heart hammering as the shadows pulsed with malicious intent. The remnants of their fears lingered, twisted faces of their insecurities looming in the omissions and distortions around them. Yet, within that fear, a flicker of strength ignited, sparking a surge of resolve. "Hold my hand," Jessica urged, gripping Leah's and Megan's hands tightly. They clutched each other's fingers, forming a chain strong enough to keep their fear at bay. The darkness around them began to shift, buckling under the weight of their unity. For once, the shadows stuttered, recoiling from the bright light of their combined courage. "See what you've become," the voice hissed, its sugary tones slipping into bitterness. "You're nothing without the shadows. We're everything with each other." Megan shouted, her voice ringing clear, cutting through layers of doubt as she focused ahead. The shadows surged forward in a frantic motion, desperate to consume their strength. "You can't escape!" shrieked the dark figure, as the force of its malevolence writhed against them like venomous vipers. But Jessica stood firm. "No. We're not afraid. We own our past and we're ready for the future." Suddenly, the light within them blazed hotter, bursting forth like a solar flare, radiant and intoxicating. Shadows screeched and writhed as they were pushed back, engulfed in their own despair while the girls advanced toward the glowing horizon. The darkness moaned, "This isn't over. You will return." With every step toward the light, Jessica felt weight lifting from her shoulders. Fear transformed into clarity, anger into freedom. They raced forward, leaving the echoes of their past behind, the growls and whispers softening as they drew closer to liberation. As they broke through the shadows, an exit appeared, a pearly door shimmering with promise. "Let us go," Leah shouted, pulling the other two as they barreled into the light. The world spun, colors blossoming in vibrant hues as they emerged into a sun-soaked field, shimmering with the promise of a new beginning. They fell to the ground, panting but alive, the fresh air filling their lungs with hope. "What just happened?" Megan gasped. "That house, it was holding our fears captive," Jessica concluded, glancing back in the direction they had come. "But we faced it. Together. Did we really break free?" Leah asked, her voice trembling. "Yeah, but it also taught us something important," Jessica said, a soft smile creeping over her face. "We're never alone in this. We can conquer our demons as long as we fight together." As they lay surrounded by wildflowers, laughter bubbled amid their tired breaths. They realized that while the shadows would always linger at the edges of their minds, they were no longer defined by what haunted them. "We'll be each other's light," Megan vowed, squinting at the sunlight spilling over them. "No matter where we go from here." "Always," Leah agreed, squeezing Jessica's hand as they lay together in shared relief. They felt a sense of finality, a closure that brought comfort. They would carry this experience, this bond, with them. And as they stood to leave that field, emboldened and intertwined, the haunting whisper faded to a soft echo, "You will never truly escape, but you don't have to. Together, you can face anything." With that, they turned their backs on the shadows, ready to embrace whatever came next, united in their fight against the darkness. Don't let this journey end here. You need to subscribe now for more heart-stopping stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and fill the comments with your thoughts and theories about this mind-blowing conclusion. Remember to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this incredible finale. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.